The Icon. If you only have a few seconds, this is the one that we recommend for most people to buy. But depending on what you prioritize, it might be the wrong choice. The Chevy Traverse and the Ford Explorer make a lot of sense. They're spacious, modern SUVs that still offer 3 rows of seats, but they also have better fuel economy and a lower price than the Expedition and the Tahoe. That said, they're not perfect. We're Edmunds, and we test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck, or SUV is the best, then stick with us. So there's a lot to like about the Explorer, especially if you care about driving and technology. But the practical stuff, there's some room for improvement. Ooh, see what I mean? But don't get me wrong, the tech here is actually really good. We get native Google Maps, we get the Google Assistant for all your voice commands, and the Google Play Store so that you can download third-party apps like Waze or Spotify. And don't worry, you still get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, but you don't exactly need them because the native stuff is great. The display itself is also super high res and the menu structures are very easy to work with. I also love that you can take your nav, even if you're using CarPlay, and have it in front of you as the driver, which leaves your touchscreen for anything else that you want to display. The older Explorer had a much taller vertical touchscreen, but this one is way better to use. And speaking of upgrades, to find out everything you've ever wanted to know about the new Ford Explorer, head over to Edmunds.com. We'll even help you find the best price. Now, one thing we don't love is that all of the climate controls are now integrated into the screen. We don't get buttons or knobs. Boo! But the good news is they're all really easy to find and they don't change places when you're driving along. You do get some physical buttons though, including for the auto start-stop system and for the cameras when you're parking, which is a huge help. We also get a volume knob and really intuitive buttons on the steering wheel too, which are always appreciated. All right, these seats are super comfortable and very adjustable. It's easy to find it just the way you like to have your seat. And the heating and ventilation functions are very strong, but that's no surprise because Ford has always been good at that kind of thing. One thing I'm not sold on is the massage function that comes on the Explorer Platinum model like we have here. First of all, it's not in with the rest of the seating controls. You have to go into here, then go into seats, then hit the massage. It's kind of hard to find. And once it starts going, it's really loud. It's a little obnoxious. I've had much better massage systems in cars, which I know is first world problems, but it matters. So when it comes to small item storage, there's more of it because the screen is now horizontal compared to that old vertical one, including this nice little shelf down below where you can easily fit 2 phones, and one of the sides is a wireless charging pad. There's also some nice rubberized texture underneath it, so your phone's not going to be sliding back and forth the entire time. There's also some nice little random cubbies around the interior where you can put small things. One bummer though is that the cup holders here are not going to fit a giant water bottle like you could do in a Honda Pilot. Something this size, on the other hand, does fit. Now that said, the center console storage could be a little bit better, and I have one more gripe. The fingerprints all over this black plastic, not so great. These seats are bad. We like the front row, they're a lot more comfortable, but once we get to the second row, it goes downhill pretty quickly. They're too narrow, they lack padding, and there is absolutely zero side-to-side support. So if your driver takes a turn too quickly, you're going flying. I gotta say, the small item storage and the cup holder situation could be better too. Really, the only big benefits are right here in the center console. There's 2 USB-C ports and a household outlet to charge my phone, and I also have heated seats. One other bonus is you get a nice integrated sunshade. And when it comes to car seat accommodation, things are actually pretty good. Now, a rear-facing car seat might make the front passenger have to scoot up a little bit more compared to some other 3-row SUVs, but if you're an average-sized person, it should be just fine. The anchors and tethers are super easy to find, and bonus points because the air vents are right overhead. All right, so let's see what it's like getting into the third row. The easy part is it's just a button on top of the seat and then it slides forward. That's all good. But this wheel arch does kind of cut in a little bit, which could be a problem for some people. And then once I'm back here, could be better. We've set this up so that a normal-sized adult is sitting in front of me. And as you can see, the legroom is pretty bad. My knees are up and tucked in really tight. This is basically just for kids in this third row. But the good news is you do get cup holders on both sides. I have 2 USB-C chargers and, most importantly, an air vent so that it doesn't get too hot. So cargo space in the Explorer, as you can see, is okay, but not great. We can fit a full-size suitcase and a carry-on side by side. The suspension setup in this car means that the rear wheel arches kind of dig into the cargo space, which kind of compromises it a bit. That said, we do have a few important things to talk about. The third row is power folding, at least on some models in the Explorer, and there's a very good underfloor storage area too. And when it comes to towing, the Explorer is good for 5,000 pounds, and this has a blind spot monitoring system that can accommodate the length of a trailer. That's one of the best setups you're gonna get in the entire segment. So I'm not sure I expected to say this, but I really enjoy driving the Ford Explorer. The brakes are stable, predictable, and they're very easy to be smooth with. And the ride quality is actually great. I mean, we've driven this thing all over the place on some pretty bad roads. I've had no major complaints whatsoever. I also love how high resolution the cameras are. And again, a little round of applause for Ford for doing a physical button right here so I can pull them up whenever I need them. And even if you're not using the cameras, it's generally very easy to see out of this thing. There's no major blind spot that's getting in my way. So Blue Cruise on most major highways will accelerate, brake, steer, and even change lanes for you. It's available on almost every trim level of the Explorer, and the hardware and a 1-year free trial is $500, and definitely worth the money. If there is a downside, it's that it is a little bit noisy in here, especially when you get on the highway. Both the road and the wind noise tend to ramp up a bit. But maybe the best part of driving the Explorer is this optional twin-turbo V6 engine. It is way more powerful than that Traverse. Hopping between those cars this week, this feels like I was getting into a Lamborghini, I swear. But even if you don't want that extra powerful V6 engine, you do have the option of the base 4-cylinder, which gets better fuel economy too. So any way you slice it, the engines available in the Explorer are great. And if it's time for you to upgrade your engine, head over to Edmunds.com where we have everything you need to do your research. The Explorer's handling is fantastic too. I know that might sound kind of silly to talk about with the big 3-row SUV, but it's been very impressive. Even if you're somebody that doesn't care about driving necessarily, you're still going to appreciate how the Explorer feels from behind the wheel. So the Explorer is great if you're sitting up front. Tech, storage, comfort, driving, so much so that we think it makes up for the compromises. But what if those things are really important to you? So the Chevy Traverse has way more cargo space than that cramped Explorer, which is really important in an SUV this size, but everything else? Whoa, that is a lot of screen. Too bad it's not very good. So we have here a 17-inch plus display, which is huge. It's one of the biggest you can get in this car's segment. And just like the Ford Explorer, you get all the same Google services, except in the Traverse, you get 8 years free, and in the Ford, you only get 1 year. So that's quite a big difference. What's the problem then? It's kind of just how everything is laid out. You get all this screen, but they don't use it very well. I put the car in reverse, and the backup camera, it's just this little screen that pops up, this little square. It's not great. And then you do get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, but if I pull that up, the resolution's not as good as the native stuff. It looks like a big step backward. We do like that you get physical climate controls, including knobs for the temperature. That's great. But if I want to pull up the 360 camera, for example, I have to go into here, and then it pops up. A button for that would be nice. So there are some good points to this Traverse interior, but there's way more bad than good. Let's start with the positive, though. The seat that I'm in right now is super wide, and it is very easy to get comfortable because there is a ton of adjustment. And the heating and ventilation in these things is some of the best I have ever experienced. It's even better than that in the Explorer. The storage is not bad either. There's plenty of places to throw your phone in here, and the center console is pretty decently sized as well. When it comes to the water bottle, the big boy, not gonna happen. The more reasonably sized one, on the other hand, fits just fine. That said, the seat doesn't have a lot of padding. It's quite hard. And when you're using automatic climate control, it turns on the heated or the cooled seat, whether you want it or not. So if you don't, you have to go in and turn it off every single time. But my biggest gripe is that it just doesn't feel that nice in here. It is very rental car chic. I mean, there's hard plastic all over the place, stuff that's gonna collect fingerprints and scratches. 3-row SUVs, there are many of them with a high quality, nice feeling interior, and the Chevy Traverse is not one of them. So just like the front row, there is a ton of space back here in the second row. That is a huge positive for the Traverse. But also like the front row, the seats are super hard and not very comfortable. It would honestly be a little bit of a struggle being in this car on a road trip. Now, one thing I have to point out is that car seat accommodation is a breeze in the Traverse because the door opening is huge, making it really easy to get a seat in and out, and all of the latch points and anchors are very easy to find. We also get overhead ventilation just like in the Explorer. We get 2 cup holders here, and then we get a few places to plug in your phone, 2 USB-C ports and a household outlet. You also get rear heated seats. Now, another big benefit is that it is very easy to access the third row just with this little button right here. And if you notice, you can leave a car seat installed with the whole way that this thing works. And if that is something you can't do in your current SUV, we have a quick and easy tool on the website to give you an instant cash offer on your car. All right, so getting back here is a little bit easier than it is in the Explorer, but when we get the seat all the way back, it's a little tight, definitely in the legroom department. I have to say the headroom is not terrible though. They give a little incline in the roof, so it's not too bad overall. I also have a USB-C port over here and one over here in addition to cup holders. And again, just like the Explorer, there are air vents for you in the third row. Overall, the experience back here is pretty much the same as it is in the Explorer. It's better off to be in the third row if you're a kid. So let me make this simple. The number one reason to buy a Chevy Traverse is the amount of space you get in the cargo area. Behind the second row, there's 25% more space than you get in the Ford Explorer. And then back here, there's a lot more. You can see visually that we're able to fit an additional suitcase, no problem. But you can fit strollers, big bags, anything you have in your everyday life where you're going to be needing a lot more space. The Traverse is much better than the Explorer. Also, there's a huge amount of storage beneath this floor right here. And just like in the Ford, I have a power folding third row, and in the Chevy, I also get the ability to fold down the second row. So driving the Traverse is fine. It's fine. I'll get to a few red flags in a second, but for the most part, it's just okay. So the ride quality is good when you're going quickly. It absorbs bumps well, but slow around town, you actually feel a lot coming from the road. And it feels heavy, like big heavy with a ton of body roll. And that means if you need to make an emergency maneuver, for example, it's much less confident from behind the wheel than the Explorer. So the 4-cylinder in the Traverse just doesn't feel up to the task. At the Edmunds test track, this took 8.4 seconds to get to 60. That is pretty much the slowest among the Traverse's competitors. And when you have a car full of people and all their stuff, it feels even slower. All those maneuvers that are easy to do in the Explorer are just not simple here. Getting onto the freeway or making a pass when you need it is a lot easier to do in the Explorer. Plus this engine is noisy, like really loud and nasty. I don't like it at all. And it's less fuel efficient than the 4-cylinder you'll find in the Explorer. The Traverse also gets hands-free driving. The system is called Super Cruise, and just like in the Explorer, this will accelerate, brake, stay in the lane, and even change lanes for you on most major highways. We think Super Cruise is the industry standard for hands-free driving. It's fantastic. And in the Traverse, it is optional on every single trim level, and it's even standard on the top 2. And Chevy gives you a 3-year free trial. It's the one genuinely good thing about driving a Traverse, that and the really good camera visibility. And if hands-free driving sounds like something you want on your next car, head over to Edmunds.com where we have all the information for you. But here are those red flags that I just mentioned. The steering is really heavy, and not like in a fun sports car kind of way, like in an annoying kind of way, especially at low speeds. If you're making a 3-point turn or a U-turn, you have to put a lot of work to get the car to turn back and forth. And then there's the brakes. Now we normally don't talk about braking numbers from our test track with a car like this, but this took the longest distance out of any 3-row SUV we've tested to get from 60 to 0. That means if there's an emergency situation and you need to stomp on it, the Traverse is not great. And it's also really sketchy in the nosedives in the process. All around, I expected a lot more from the brakes. The all-wheel drive system is also strange in the Traverse. The car defaults when you turn it on to front-wheel drive, so you have to hit this button over here to my left or put the car in a different driving mode to activate all-wheel drive. Now it does this for fuel economy purposes, which is fine, But if it's rainy and the road suddenly gets slick and you need all-wheel drive in an instant, it's not gonna come on automatically. Before we get into the value and verdict sections, if you like these videos, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. It goes a long way. If you have any questions or think that there's something that we missed, let us know in the comments because we read every single one of them. All right, let's talk cash. The Explorer starts at $42,000, and if you want a loaded one like this, it's more like 60 grand. Here's a very random pro tip. If you want a black contrast roof, get it done in the aftermarket because getting it done straight from the shop at Ford costs an eye-watering, unheard of $4,895. But price isn't the whole value story here. So the Explorer's warranty isn't anything special, and Ford isn't particularly generous with the subscriptions either. You get 1 year for Google services and 1 year for Blue Cruise hands-free driving. There are a few quality control issues to go over. There's all that creaky plastic that I mentioned earlier. And at least on this particular car, the steering wheel tends to make noise when you turn left and right, which is very annoying. But at least the 2 MPG advantage it has over the Traverse will save you a couple $100 a year. So what about our friend the Traverse? Well, to start, it's $1,000 more than the Explorer, but a fully loaded one like we have here is about 3 grand less. And for that price, you get a much more generous Google subscription and a few extra years of hands-free driving. But just like the Explorer, for around $60,000, this just doesn't feel nice enough. During our review process, there were creaks all over the interior. It made weird noises when you would shift it into reverse. And there's plastic everywhere on the inside. So now let's turn to the Edmunds ratings to see how things shook out. The Traverse wins when it comes to storage and cargo, along with a slightly better value and comfort score. But overall, it's the Ford that puts in the better scores in the majority of our tests. So as you can see, the Ford Explorer is better in just about every way. And if your heart is set on buying a 3-row American SUV, this is the one that we would take home. And with that, thanks for watching.